Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, good thing is that we can hear you. Yeah, I don't see you just yet. Oh, I see your name now.
Click your up arrow beside your video.
It says start video, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then it says
you it may
There it
lag.
is.
There you
There
go.
it is.
Ooh,
you got me. There we
we
go.
gotcha.
All right. So
Oh, that's the famous office right there.
there we go. This is the war room.
Man, that's where we win battles and wars. All right. So
No, thanks for having me. I really, it's like, like, well, people are like, Rob, will he show up? I'm like, pretty much always. It's like with the strat, I've had to battle for over 10 years to get people to listen to me. Yeah. And now that they do, I'm like, yeah, I still show up. Like, I'll still show up. I want to talk strat, I'll be there.
I truly appreciate it, man. I don't even know how to express my gratitude to you. I just want to start by saying everybody that's on the class right now, this is Rob Smith. I learned the strat from Sarah Sniper, and thank God Sarah Sniper always mentioned that you was the creator of the strat. So I always went to your channel and, just learned from you, studied you, and I still study you to this day. I love your enthusiasm, your energy, and just the way that you love on people and just teach them this stuff, right? That also helped me to be a better teacher myself. So everybody, this is Rob. Rob, I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I believe that you've been trading for about 33 years now.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah. And it took me over 20 years to get the strat going. And, I, had the advantage of being on the floor. I was a specialist, so I had order flow, and, everybody thinks they're all naked day traders. And like, when I started on the floor, there was no computers. So there was no day trading. You had to be on the floor. So we had a huge advantage. And, our trading floor, the Chicago Stock Exchange, was essentially like an offshoot of the New York Stock Exchange. Mm-hmm. And, then it went away. It was like an ECN. But once there was ECNs and stuff like that, they didn't need us. So I knew a lot of guys that went homeless after the floor went down. And, I was always pounding the charts. I'm going to figure this out. And it took me a long time, but I had an edge. I had order flow to trade and all that kind of stuff, where trading just by yourself, so hard. It's so hard. I'm like, even for me, I was like, how am I going to do this? This is not easy once the floor went down. And,
can you elaborate on that? Like, when you say trading by yourself is so hard?
Yeah, because, like for me, I was a specialist, so I had order flow to lean on. Mm-hmm. if I got a guy with an order to buy 100,000 shares, I can easily just go, take a couple thousand shares in front of him and then let him run the price, so that was a different type of ball game. But when you just got to sit there and figure out what's going to happen as opposed to knowing what's happening because I have the orders, right? And saying like, when you have order flow, you can have guys coming in saying like, all right, I got 100,000 to buy on the bid. And then you take the offer, and then you get some other guys who come in and say, I want to take the offer, and you sell it to them. Then you've got another guy who comes in who says, I want to sell 2,000 on the bid in front of that guy, and you buy it. So it was a whole different ball game. It was a lot easier as opposed to, trying to figure out how things work, because I worked my ass off. And when I started, I was like, I got murdered. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to read every book on technical analysis that I possibly can. And I'm like, I'm still losing. I'm like, how am I still losing? I know all this stuff, right? And I'm still losing, right? And they're like, oh, well, it takes years of screen time. And I'm like, yeah, well, my bills are due on the 1st. Right? So I'm like, all right, man, I don't got 5 years to learn this stuff, right. And I'm getting married. And so, I was lucky that I had that advantage, and then there was other things, I did media, stuff like that, where you have other sources of income. Mm-hmm. Being like, okay, it's another ball game when you have trading's all you got, you can white knuckle every trade and be like, man, this really needs to work out.
I think we just lost them.
Uh-oh.
Just give us a second. I don't think that's him. All right, let me just shoot him a message real quick.
Yeah, so if you all have questions while we're waiting for Rob to come back on, make sure to drop them in the chat.
He's back on already.
Okay.
Oh, all right, cool.
I just asked him. I mean,
Appreciate you, Jordan.
I'm big on IG with all this, bro. I'm on IG a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. Yay.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah, you got.
Okay, cool. So like I was saying when I got cut out was that, a lot of successful traders have other sources of income, which relieves the stress a lot. Being like, well, if I know my nuts covered, then trading's not as bad. But when that's all you have, that's a big mental challenge. Saying, look, man, I really need this thing to work out, and there's so much BS out there about, I make all this money, listen to me. And then like, you go to him and like, you go to his chat room, like he seems to be making a lot of money, but you aren't. Like, if you've ever been in the room like that. So, and then you see guys just getting, canned, lying. Like, oh, well, he's going to jail and he's out of the business and he's out of the business. And I got, who do I listen to?
Yeah.
And that was one of the hardest things for me to overcome, was because when I'm teaching, I want people to understand that I'm telling you the truth. It's going to make sense to you. And like, oh no, but he makes all this money. I'm like, all right, look, and like, and most rooms are follow the leader. He says we're all going to do this. I'm like, well, of course it's going to work if you pile 300 people into the same stock and you bought it first and you're just going to sell it into them, right? That's what a lot of guys will do, right? And so I'm real happy for all the people like yourselves that, it's taken a long time, but, as the strat gets bigger, more and more people are respecting that we know that it works. And the proof was going to be in the pudding. I'm like, if I can manufacture winning traders, nobody can tell me anything. Nobody can tell me I'm BS, period. But it took a long time. And like I said, Sarah, I didn't expect her to be as good as she is. And, Jermaine's the strat soldier, OG. I mean, there's so many good stratters out there. And, when Benzinga came to us and, what they really liked was like, you guys all think exactly the same and talk the exact same language. You might trade differently and say, some people trade off the oneer, some people trade off the 60-minute or the weeklies or whatever. He's like, but you all think exactly the same. And I was like, that's it. That's it. That's what a community should be, as opposed to going into chat.
All right, we lost him one more time. Just give us a second. But yeah, one thing that I would mention is, as we get back, Rob back on here, is if you guys have any type of questions on, why is the strat so effective or things of that nature, please do ask him, right? Because I know why it's effective and I can answer that question, but it always hits a little different when you're talking to the person that actually created this, right? Not only we got Rob back. All right, Rob, just let me know when you could unmute yourself. Oh, there we go. Gotcha.
We're good? Okay. Yeah, I don't know why this keeps doing that, but we'll keep forging on.
Keep rolling. So real quick, Rob, before we start asking any questions, one thing I do want to elaborate on is that the strat is very effective and it is correct. You just have to understand the time frame that you're utilizing, and you have to, understand time frame continuity and things of that nature. You're speaking to someone that started trading options January 21st of 2021, and I was able to quit my job in a course of 90 days of doing so, right? But one thing that I realized, and a close friend of mine named D'Angelo, D-Wiz, is that I got lucky, right? In a bull market run and with the strategies that I've learned. But when I was able to get a hand on the strat and just understand it and have it click for me, it changed my trading perspective. And one thing that I would say, because I don't want to hold the floor too long, is I know we'll get into talking about patterns, but when you created this, do you see that it aligns with support and resistance, supply and demand? You know, all of these different things, or even like say a 2-2 reversal to the upside, or you probably could have a 2-2 a 3-2 reversal back to the upside or a downside, but those patterns are like a morning star or evening star.
Somewhat, you know, it's like it was a work in progress, really, over time, and then the scenarios really took us to the next level. I mean, before we had that, you know, we would never take something going 3. We'd never take a 3-2. Didn't know what a 2-2 reversal was, and we just a bunch of inside bars, and we would have the broadening formations for magnitude. But once we got the you know, the scenarios down, that really changed the game. And you know, I would tell you that I'm like the pure stratter. I'm like, I don't look at anything but the strat. And you know, but I want people to be successful. So if they see other things that are going to make them successful, well, we'll have at it. Over time, they tend to drop off a little bit more and say, all right, you know, when you understand like simultaneous breaks, the importance of that, and you know, that you don't have to draw the broadening formation because oftentimes it won't be there yet. You'll see like lower lows, but you don't see the higher highs. I'm like, and once you start racing back with continuity, I'll tell people, I'm like, I don't see the higher high yet, Rob. I'm like, you're about to. Here we go. All right. And I, you know, I had some help here, you know, because as if you're on my Twitter, you know, I proclaim a lot, and you know, I looked at charts for 20 years and never saw any of this stuff. And December 2010, I got baptized, and within 6 months, I developed the strat. And then 7 years to the month, I was in church on Christmas Eve because Christmas was on a Monday, and the scenario started playing out in my head. And it's 5 miles from my church to the office, and I decided to walk because I was in church. I'm like, what is this stuff that's playing off in my head? I'm like, I'm trying to worship here. And as I started to walk, he was revealing it. He's like, 1, 2, 3, and combinations thereof. And I'm like,
Oh
wait,
my
what?
God.
Wait, what? And I was like, I got to the office and I started looking at the charts. I was like, oh my God, it's even easier. And I'm like, oh, it's even easier than I thought. He's like, you've been a good steward. I'm going to make it even easier for you to teach these people. And I had,
All right, guys. It's all right.
That is amazing, bro. I'm just gonna tell
Yeah, that's
you,
amazing.
Oh, man.
boo, yeah,
Solidified it,
boo,
man.
yeah. God, dog, bro.
God gave it to me. That's just amazing. That's amazing.
Nope. God honored his faithfulness. I love it, bro. I love it. I love it.
Amen. Amen. Jordan, let us know when you're able to get Rob back in here, bro.
there we go. I think I'm in, right?
Yep. Gotcha.
Okay. And so, you know, it was 7 years, right? And so then I called a friend of mine. I'm like, you're not going to believe this, man. And I had people who were with me for years. And obviously it's around the holidays, so a lot of people are on vacation or whatever. And by the time they came back, I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? I'm like, you're going to love this. It's only 1, 2, 3. That's it. And there's combinations thereof. Now we can get everything. And now we can get everything. And, you know, I made a video called The Greatest Story Ever Sold, where I ripped apart technical analysis, because he also showed me that. He's like, this is all false. This is all the enemy. I'm like, it has to be. Like almost every trader loses. I'm like, who does that? The enemy does. All right. And he loved that. And so the next weekend I came in to film The Greatest Story, and my computer crashed 3 times. So I was trying to film that. My computers do not crash. And I was like, get behind me, Satan. I am filming this today. This is getting done. Like, get behind me, man. And so it was really, that's where it all comes from, really. You know, like, I can say it's me all I want. People are like, well, you've been looking at charts for 30 years. I'm like, oh, well, I still didn't figure it out. Like, I just didn't figure it out by myself. You know, I'm like, we all need the help in day to day. And that's really where this is from. And the way I could prove it is not only that, you know, the videos then changed. It's just that it's all based in truth. From the one I said, I am the truth. It's like, there's no falsehoods here. It's like
Yeah.
all you can be is 1, 2, or 3. That's it. You have continuity here. You don't. That's it. It's truth. So, that's, I give him all the credit, and, that's why I'm the messenger, and tell people that, and that's why I work so hard. Like, he didn't say he'd be the richest guy in the world, right? He didn't say that. He said, store your treasures in heaven.
Amen.
So the way I look at it is that the more people I can help, the more treasures I'm going to have when I get there. Right.
Amen.
And so that's why, I'll do stuff like this. And, anytime I can help somebody or, get them up to speed, and, why I'm so happy that, and it's infectious. You'll notice, just like with yourself, that when you learn the strat, suddenly you get the teaching bug. You want to tell people about it, and it's another thing he said, spread the word. Spread the word, man. I'm like, look, this has been solved. Now, it's not, even though we know the strat doesn't mean it's always going to be easy, but at least we know why we're right and why we're wrong. All right. And that's really important.
I've seen you bringing up technical analysis and saying that you rip it apart. I know that one of our moderators, Lauren, has a couple of questions or a few questions for you. But before I pass the floor to her, I do want to say, God bless you, Rob. May the Lord continue to bless you from the crown of your head to the sole of your feet, and bless you with his gracious blood.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And another reason, I'm just stopping to tell you that is because it hit me in my heart when you said that. Because when I started this journey in trading, not only trading, but in the education field, with just educating people about candlesticks and charts, my heart always told me to tell people, I'm not teaching you this stuff. I'm just giving you the information. You're teaching yourself, and I'm only a vessel. God is the vehicle. But thank you for that message. And I just want to pass it over to Lauren real quick. I know she had a couple of questions as well.
Okay. Hi, Lauren.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Hi, thank you so much again for coming. We're really excited to have you. I work with a lot of beginners in our trading group, so I just had some questions as far as we're aware that you don't need any indicators, but for the benefit of the beginners in our group, can you explain and expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, most of them are lagging, so they don't have any predictive power at all.
Right.
And so that's a problem. And also that they would tend to not use multiple time frame analysis, even if they are using indicators, which is to say that, let's say they'll look in whatever, it's oversold on RSI, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
But they're not looking at a monthly and a weekly, and they're just looking at a daily, saying it's oversold. Well, how come it's still over 80 on a monthly? Right. So this could be the first move, just the first wave down. So oversold, it could actually be a real sell signal, not a buy signal. So when they're not using multiple time frame analysis, that can really mess with you. So I would say that. I would also say, if they are successfully using them, to continue to do that and implement the strat. Because if you're already successful, the strat's going to explain why you are, right? And that's going to give you a lot more confidence. So if they're successful already, don't tell them to get rid of everything right away. Be like, all right, implement this, and then you'll know. And then over time, it goes away. Also, it can be very subjective, where it's like, oh, well, what's oversold? It's like below 20. I'm like, well, what if it goes below 5? I'm like, because oftentimes when I started doing stuff like that, what I would notice is like an oversold bounce might be like 10 cents, and the RSI would go shooting back up to 50, and then boom, down another $5, right? Like, that's a problem. Like, and that's where you want to have those scenarios lined up and slow it down and say, look, not everybody's cut out to trade a 5-minute chart. If you go to the 30s and 60s, that's fine. Be like that. That's all you need. The hard part for me to always
We just lost him real quick. We'll get him right back. That was a really dope question, Lauren. And if anybody's not understanding, his replies or possibly Lauren's question or anyone's question, please feel free to ask us about the question, or at least ask Rob, like, if he can go a little more in depth if you're not understanding something. Do not be afraid. Remember to always you know, take that risk and shoot for what you want. Rob, we got you back.
Yes, we do.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so, when I teach, like I did, I do a 1 hour power hour on Mondays, and I did 2 a week in August just to try and train people faster. And, in my job, I'm like, if I didn't answer the same questions a billion times, I couldn't do my job. And I tell people, I'm like, don't smile and nod. If you don't understand it, ask it again. Right? If you don't understand something, ask it again. We'll
Right.
figure this out. But I always want to make sure people get it, and not just just touch on it and be like, if you don't get it, ask again. And there's no stupid questions except the ones that don't get asked. Right?
Agreed.
If you don't
Agreed.
understand something, keep coming, keep going here, because we always have a lot of good examples. And be like, look. And I teach in a lot of analogies that, life analogies that people can understand, and say, this is like this, when this happens, it's like that. This is what's happening. And, being in the business long enough, I've been in every trading situation that you could ever have. So I know how trading psychology works when you're in a loser, when you're doing this, when you're doing that. And, one of my favorite analogies is, a lot of people, especially struggling traders, will pour through charts all weekend, and boy, they come in piling in Monday morning. And that's usually the wrong thing to do. Tuesday is when you want to have the things going up or the things going down that either continue or negate. And, one of the analogies I like to use is a bus. And so let's say that you come in and you buy 2 stocks. These are your best ideas for whatever reason. One goes up and one goes down. You know what you're likely to do? You're likely to sell that winner and hope that loser comes back, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do. You get out of that loser and ride that winner and add to it. So when I use the bus analogy, it's like you're sitting at a bus stop, the bus comes, you get on the bus, it's taking you where you want to go, but you freak out and be like, this thing's going to turn around and go the wrong way. Get off the bus and you get on a bus going the wrong way, hoping that thing's going to turn around and take you the right way. That's exactly what you're doing when you do stuff like that. And, but that's the tendency that most traders will do. They'll be like, oh, I got a winner. It could turn into a loser. Get out. Oh, I got a loser. And when you have one of the things about continuity is that we're trying to trade with the aggressors, the buyers or the sellers, and against people in losing trades, right? Because if you're a winner, you can sit there, till the cows come home. They're like, Rob, do I got to sell this? I'm like, no. But if you're a loser, you better do something. You either better stop out or cut part of it, or even worse, add to it and ignore it. That's what the losers got to do. And the guys who ignore it are usually the ones who blow it out on the lows. They're like, all right, well, I'll just go do something else and just let it play out. And hopefully this thing comes back. Those are usually the ones who are just like, all right, can't take it anymore. Finally, I'm out.
Hey, Rob, you said something very important. And I know most people understand it with averaging down, right? When you're saying, adding to the losers. Me learning the strat and learning from you and learning from Sarah, I know that it's not against the strat, but we don't average into losers. If we're getting stopped out, if it's going down and we're losing, we rather get stopped out and catch a reversal right back up or right back down.
That's right. Because you get that's and because we were talking about this in the power hour tonight, I'm like, you can win,
Give us 1 second, guys. And I'm gonna try to get my the last part of my question out. I was gonna ask Rob that when some people, when you're gonna make that critical decision and you say you are someone that averages down, are you wanting to average into the same option contract? Are you wanting to go further out on your expiration date? These are things that are very important to know, right? Because you may have a loser and average down, right? Because you have a certain strategy, but you don't want to always average into the same option contract or even into the same expiration date. Hey, Rob, do we got you back?
Yeah, it looks like it. It's like, what do really big losing trades look like? They look like that. And that's what it is. I'm like, look, I guess I was saying before I got cut out, I'm like, I get stopped out 10 times. I don't care. But the next one, that can pay for all of it. One of the analogies I use too for the strat is like home run derby in baseball. I'm like, I might foul a bunch of balls off, but man, once I get in a groove, this thing's not coming back. Right.
Yeah.
Once you get a hold of one, this thing ain't coming back. Right. It's not coming back. And that's one of the great things about continuity and watching the aggressive buyers or sellers and what they're doing and saying like, all right, well, man, when I'm right, I'm real right. I'm real right. If I'm wrong, I'm gone. Foul ball, that's fine. But what we want is to look for like high probability stuff, which is simultaneous break by sector and by time. And because that tells us what the institutions are doing. They're like, energy's been on the radar all year, and that was a huge trade for us at the beginning of the year, because when you have 90 to 100% of every energy stock across the subsectors, that tells me that the participants by price and time, which is the institutions, they're buying anybody who has a drop of oil. They're not discerning Exxon versus Chevron, Amerada Hess. They're buying all of them. That's what we want to know. Because I call them Sasquatches, because they're big, they're fast, and they do not like it when you see what they're doing. Right? And so when we can see what they're doing, we can piss them off. Right? We can jump in front of them. Right? Because there's another thing that's important too to understand is that, when you get into a day trading mentality, that when we're watching stuff like that, big institutions and hedge funds, they can't jump in and out in a day. It might take them a month to get in or out, right? And so that's what we want to know. These guys are really jammed, or these guys who really want in. And
we just lost Rob. We're getting right back. I'm trying to go through the chat and just see if we got some questions in here. Let me know, Jordan, when you get Rob back in here. I see Jay Johnson says, I'm new to this strategy. Can this be applied to Forex peers? Absolutely. The strat is not an indicator, but it's in the indicator section. It's just letting you know what price is doing. It's a price action based strategy. Rob, we got you back.
yeah, so I get that question a lot. And so, with Forex and everything that is that the reason we like equities is because we have a lot of evidence of what should happen. And what I mean by that is you have the broader averages, your S&P, your NASDAQ and all that. Is the stock in that index? Is it in a sector, right? Or a subsector? And because of that, we have a lot more evidence that if you have something that's in the S&P has full time frame kind of the upside with a reversal. You have it that's in an ETF that has the same thing, and you have them all buying the same sector. We have a lot of evidence that that's going to work, right? Yeah. And that's why we prefer the equities. But people trade everything, and good thing about like crypto is you can be a junkie and trade all night if you want. Like, but it doesn't really gap, So, yeah. And there's been a lot of clean moves there too. I mean,
there's a lot of clean ones,
and they're big too. They're big moves. So, it's, I always say that the strat customizes itself to you, right? Yeah. And I can go back to, it's like your relationship with the Lord. Like nobody's going to mess with, that's how it is. And being like, all right, not everybody's going to trade a 1 minute chart. Not everybody's going to trade, Forex or crypto or whatever. It's like, so it customizes itself. Sometimes that frustrates people when they first come to me like, no, Rob, you got to tell me exactly what I'm going to do. I'm like, well, I got to know who you are first. Right? And who are you? I'm like, do you have $1 billion? Do you have $500? Do you, what's your situation? Because then I can call directly to you and be like, all right, this is a setup for you. All right. Might not be for everybody, because I know that, not everybody's going to trade the high flyers and all the crazy stuff that's going on. And other people are. Other people can bounce around, to what I'm saying during the day. Be like, some people are really adept at that. Be like, all right, boom. All right, Rob says this is inside 15er. I pull up my multiple time frames. I'm like, gone. Other people will be like, man, I got to slow this down. I'm like, stay on the 30s and 60s. And I don't care if you got to be bored. I don't care if you got to be bored. Because a lot of people will think that you have to trade the opening. I'm like, you don't have to trade.
You
the
don't.
opening.
Yeah.
No. I'm like, they're like, but there's so much action. I'm like, look, FOMO boys.
Just wait for the range to take out the low. You're going back to the high.
That's right. Look, FOMO boy, sit down. I'm like, and especially this year, there's been a lot of good moves at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Where you're just sitting there
Absolutely.
being bored and like, like a 2-bar.
Rob, sorry to cut you off. Look, you just made my brain just jiggle. Look, I'll pull it up on my screen. I had it up. So let's go to the chart. Because I went against the strat, but I didn't go against the strat. That's why I say it customizes itself. Like, that's why you said it customizes itself, right? So let me pull up this. What did I have? I think I had a 4-hour. Let me pull up monthly, because monthly, I love to trade the first week, the last week of the month, and especially a new quarter. And I just got to shout you out. How does Moody know that? Because I study Rob. and Rob, he says that, and he says it in a lot of different specific ways. So like, let you know the volatility is coming at the end of the month. The volatility is also coming 10 minutes before your candle closes on the hour. It just comes every single time, right? And I know you're gonna not, bro, I study you. You're like, I'm like, oh my God, dude, you're like a best friend of mine and a mentor, and you don't even know it. But all right, so what I wanted to tell you is, let me bring up, okay, I got the 4-hour here. Let me pull up the daily on this one. Oh, that's why it's doing that. Dang. I guess I gotta do it from here. It's not wanting to pull it up. Why is it not pulling up? Oh, sorry, one day. Daily, and let's pull up the monthly chart. All right, so monthly told me we're going rev strat down. That's exactly what it told me. As soon as we opened up, I said, oh, wow. So we're doing this quick this month, right? So I no longer looked at the 2 down or any of that. I said, okay, we went inside here, boom, shooter to the upside. Well, I wouldn't call it shooter because it's still on the downside of it, but inverted pin bar to the upside, right? 2 up, 2 down. We got a rev strat reversing to the downside. I just kept watching the charts, and I took a couple of SPY calls, right? I think they were 406 I took, 410 and something else. But long story short, the reason I took it was me looking at the daily. I'm like, okay, we took out daily lows, right? On top of that, we took out daily lows. We also took out another target down here. That can insinuate, okay, we could possibly be exhausted for the rest of the week now. Right? That's what my mind tells me when I'm looking at the broad. I don't have the broadening formation on right here, but you can see the broadening formation. So here, let me pull it up on this one because I want you to see my broadening formation. One day. Here, let me just pull it up on a big chart so we can all see what's going on here. So this is what I saw. And me, I break down, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I break down time frames because I don't want to trade what I hear everybody else is trading. I want to be weird, right? So I seen this, but and hopefully this helps other people. What helps me understand that we're in the broadening formation, yes, of course, because the candle closed over the broadening formation, but I'm starting to realize that I need to trade with, oh yeah, I could just type it in. I'm doing too much. I'm excited because you're on here, but few days.
Well, so I want to point something out. So if you go back to that big 3 downer on the day.
Oh, let me go to the day. Right
that
here.
Big 3 down, right? So when I talk about trying to understand what institutions are doing on that day, these guys did not care. They were dumping everything in sight, right? And the important part about that is they knew they had more selling coming. It's like, so they knew they were going to be selling more. So oftentimes when you have these big candles, you want to see where they are, and that these guys, they knew they were going to be dumping more. And so at that point, they don't care. We're just going to sell as much as we can all day long because we're coming back the next day, and the next day, and then we'll see the new month. So that's what's going on there. So understanding that from, what's actually happening as opposed to just the scenarios. I was a specialist on the floor for years. And so I was always working institutional orders. And I know when these guys come in and they're like, I don't care. Like, it's like, this thing's going lower. I'm like, you sure? He's like, I know it is because I'm taking it there. So this is just the opening round. Right? This is the opening round, man. I'm like, and we want to dump as much as we can. And let's say that they were doing that for a customer for the end of the month, right? And so what they could do today, they could gap it down, call their customer and be like, your order's done, and their average price is way up in that 3. Then they don't care. Like, here you go. It's like, oh, nice job, thank you. Like when Warren Buffett comes in to buy 250 million shares of Apple. If I have that order, I might use continuity against me because otherwise I'm not going to get the stock. But when that happens, can matter too, because if I got 250 million shares, I might do that 200 million in the last 6 weeks of a quarter, and then use that last 50 million to flip continuity in that quarter. Go boom! Now we're gonna gun it. Now we're gonna gun it. Now we're gonna gun it.
What you just explained, like all I saw in my head was pivot lows, pivot lows, pivot lows, pivot machine gun back up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because I often say that the strat's in its infancy. It's only 11 years old. I'm like, can you imagine what people are going to be doing with this 50 years from now? And people, and people are just learning it and be like, all right, when things occur, how are we going to work this order? Because if I do it with continuity, 250.
All right, we'll get Rob back on here in a second. When we get Rob back on here, hey Jordan, do you want to take the floor and get some people to raise their hands and take some questions, bro?
Sure thing, bro.
All right. I'm gonna mute myself back here. We got
Fry Daddy, come on.
I keep playing, bro. I'm playing, bro. Hey.
I know we had some
There we go.
questions in the chat. There we go.
So like I said, it customizes itself to you. So I don't know if you're running a quadrillion hedge fund or $500, but over time, one of the good things about meeting with people like this and talking on Twitter or however the communities do it, that more people get what it is for them, and like yourself, then a lot of people will forego their own trading just to teach. They're like, man, I can help people with this, man. I'm like, all right, I might take this trade, but I can help somebody else who's then going to help somebody else,
Everybody I've taught the strat to has become a strat teacher.
Yep.
Every single person I've taught the strat to I won't say every single person I've taught the strat to, but family members and, people that, I help, but they put in the work and was able to quit their jobs as well. They teach the strat. I know a lot of people that learned the strat for me and created their own communities, and they're teaching the strat. And I'm just really just like happy and flattered, like, wow, like it's not me. I know I'm part of it, but I'm just now part of your journey. But Pat, I'm gonna pass it over to Jordan. I know he wanted to we all wanted to also make sure that members got some airtime with you and able to ask some questions.
Yes, sir, Rob, Jordan. I'm
Jordan.
running the whole server here, but I'm appreciative of you, and shout out to Moody for setting it up. Man, he called me and said he set up an interview with you. I said, dang, bro, that's great. I got to go get John Bollinger or something now. So really appreciate having you out. Like you said, I did want to give the opportunity to some of our members, if anybody did have any questions, to be able to open up that dialogue. I did have my own personal question, and that was if you could explain in some depth the triangle day out and how we can look at it coming. And how can we, use that to our advantage?
Okay, so I get this question a lot, and because of how often the broadening formation happens, is usually the way I teach the triangle day out is if you are nowhere near changing continuity on the longer time frame. And what I mean by that is like that big 3-day in the SPY down. There ain't no way you're taking that thing back up. And so what you're looking for is a reversal against that continuity, and then another reversal back into that continuity where I said, they're going to sell this stuff all day. There's no way you're taking that bar green. Reversal against you, reversal back in your favor. And that's what we're looking for. So for newer folks, reversals and continuations can be based on the 1, 2, and 3. Like you're either going 3, a 2-2 reversal, or 2-1-2. Right? There's a couple other ways, but that's pretty much the major ways. So we know what those look like, as opposed to somebody say, I'll buy in a pullback. I'm like, well, what does that mean? 2 cents, 5 cents, $2? I'm like, the question is, are you going to change continuity on anything else? So the 1 bar rev strat 60 today, it's at the first day of the month. And if that worked, it's going to change continuity back to the upside. So it's not triangle the average. That was a reversal. So what I would say is, when we have deep continuity is what I would call it, when there's no way that you're going to anywhere near changing the continuity on a longer term time frame, then you go down to the shorter term time frames, wait for a reversal against you, and then wait for that reversal back in your favor, if that makes sense. And I know for newer folks, I'm like, it can be a little confusing until you understand what I just said about the reversals, but they are quantified based on 1, 2, and 3, period. That's it. And, you'll see them all over the place once you do. And then for magnitude, the question is, most people draw support and resistance horizontally. And if that was true, trading would be very simple, right? It would just be 84.86, 84.86. And then you'll hear them say, support comes resistance, and resistance becomes support. Well, if that was true, trading would be very simple too, because if 84 is my support level, I just buy at 84.01, and I'd have a stop, at 83.99 and go short. Period. If that was true, that would be so easy. That's just not how it works, and that's why understanding the broadening formation is so important, because threes exist, they happen all the time, right? So hopefully that helps. But basically, triangle out just means that they're stopping out some tight stops. Some people who are just looking to take profits is getting out, but the real direction is still the other way, right? Because everybody, like I said, everybody who trades knows, oh, I got out and then went blasting off the moon. I got out too early. I'm like, yeah, you did. There was no reason to sell this thing. And the only people who were selling was people who were scalping and getting out. But the real thing was the buyer, on the way up, because, what the big boys can do is they're just slowly moving their buy order up. And then when you have an inside bar, all that means is they might just be sitting on the bid and be like, all right, I've already run this thing, but I'm going to sit on the bid and try and get some stock. And then when they don't, then they step up and run it, right? And say, okay, I need some stock here, man. As I was saying before, there's institutions that don't care about the price, and guys that have orders are like, look, I need stock, dude. I gave you an order for 25 million shares, dude. What do you got me? 100,000? 100,000, dude. I need 25 million. I'm like, all right, here we go. Here we go. All right. But that's when you'll see those rests and say, okay, what does this inside bar mean? It can mean lack of interest, or it can be big boy sitting on the bid. He's like, I've already run this thing. I'm going to try and get it cheaper. And if I don't, well, we got to go to the market. So hopefully that helps.
Hey, Rob, I see somebody has their hand raised. Just real quick, when you said horizontal lines, I don't want to go too in depth about it, but correct me if I'm wrong. From my studying you, when these are actually targets, right? I'll talk about that later, but they're horizontal lines regardless of the fact. When we break a horizontal line, and you're trading support and resistance, and you may be using a strat, what I learned from you is you always want to wait for the reclaim. Correct.
That's right. That's right. Because, and when is that reclaiming? Right? Is it a new month? Is it a new day? Is it a new week? When is it reclaiming?
Because Thursday?
I'm not fighting major continuity, and I got a change in continuity coming back on a reclaim. We're going with the moon. Where's it going up there, Rob? Up there. You sure? Yep. Like, unless I have a reversal, like.
Shay, we got you when he gets back. I wanted to ask too, what's the importance between those Thursdays or first of the month or time of day?
Hey, I just
What certain things hold that value?
Jordan, I just want to see if I'm right. Hopefully he's not on. I think the best trading day, you should always supposed to trade if you want to, right? Monday or Tuesday. But I think with the strat, the best trading day is Wednesday because it's about time frame continuity. But I'll let him explain it. That's why I'm starting to use the 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day chart. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where the weekly flip comes in, right?
Yep. And that's how you start knowing about turnaround Tuesdays.
And then that weekly flip, what does it do? You flip that what? That monthly.
Oh, no, the weekly flips the daily.
So I think I'm back. So
Yeah.
one of the important things about coming back through a previous range, right, is that let's say I've got a big buy order and I'm buying, right, and I'm coming back to a previous range. Well, what we also know is that people have been told to put stops either where they got in or on obvious pivots, right? So when you come back to a previous range, if let's say I'm a big buyer and then you're stopping people out, which turned them into buyers, which also removes liquidity, which makes it harder for me to get stock. And I get pissed. So a lot of times you want to be coming back to a previous range because of that, and we'll rip back through a lot faster than it will going into new all-time highs where people are like, oh, there's nothing but clear blue skies up there. I'm like, there's nothing but profit taken up there, pal. But when you come back through a previous range, you're going to stop them out and you're going to piss them off. I'm like, I can't get the stock that I'm looking for because all these little guys are getting stopped out. Because you know, when you get stopped and you have that slippage, well, there's guys on the other side who are trying to buy it, and that slippage is costing them as well. So that's why that mechanics of that works, as well as anybody who's traded for a while knows that when you started, and hopefully this is not you anymore, is when you make a little bit, make a little bit, make a little bit, and then give it all back and then some. That's what happened to you. That's what happened to you. You got stuck in that.
Yeah, I don't care to talk about it. I took my account, man, to 6 figures, and I thought I was doing something, Rob. I'm looking at my boss like, say something else to me. Say something else to me. See if I don't walk up out of here. You know what I'm saying? And, I quit my job and everything, and I got humbled. When I told you I got smacked, I looked at my portfolio and was like, okay, we're not trading off of this portfolio no more. I have mentors and I should have been did this. You're supposed to start breaking this down and use this for day trading, this for, you're supposed to categorize your portfolios. But I do see that we have Shay Dub with her hand raised. Shay, you want to unmute yourself? You got a question? Or let me see if there we go.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you.
Okay, hi Rob. Oh my gosh, I'm like, I can't breathe talking to you. Oh my God, but I will be on my best behavior. Thank you so much for speaking to all of us. Moody actually introduced this thread to me. So I follow you, I follow OG, I follow Sarah, Lala, like quite a few of you guys. But one thing I have finally incorporated are broadening formations. I know that's clearly one of the things we must incorporate when using the shred. Something I cannot fully get a hold of is the full time frame continuity. Like, it makes sense, but when I try to incorporate it all together, it just does not go in my favor. However, I've only been trading for like 7 months, so I know there's still quite a few more hours I need to put in, and time and things of that nature. But it's like, what would you suggest? Because I typically look for four of the full time frames to ensure, like, hey, if all of them, like at least 4 are going up, it's more bullish or bearish, whatever the case may be. But again, it doesn't always go in my favor, so I'm not quite sure how to mesh it all together, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, it does. So continuity is a double-edged sword, and what I mean by that is when you come ripping through a range and going to new highs, the problem with that is now you're risking a crowded trade. Everybody who wants to be long is now long. right? That's bad. So the first guys who take profits can tank it off the 60, right? So that's, with continuity, you want to be making sure you're coming through that range. Also, there's two things that are important. One is called control. Who's in control? And so I like to speak in analogies. And so control, when you use the 60 daily, weekly, and monthly, is like a football team. All right. Your monthly is your offensive line. Your weekly is your wide receivers and tight ends. Your daily is your running back and fullback, and the 60 is your quarterback. So the 60 is always, quarterback's always going to get the ball first. It's a matter of how much help he has. Right. And then, so the second concept that's going to be really important is change. Like what happened today. Everybody's like, oh, the monthly's taking out all this. Yeah, well, if that RevStrat 60 works to the upside, you're going to change the weekly, the monthly, and the daily, and 60 back green, right? So change. So understanding magnitude. How far can we expect this to go? Very important, because if the 60 magnitude is to change the daily back green, that's something I'd want to know. So it sounds like you're getting caught up in total continuity, and that's fine.
Just give us a second, guys. We'll get him right back in.
Is it his internet or what?
Yeah, it could be his internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Possibly.
going to go fund me for him, Jordan. Internet. He ain't on here, is he? No, he ain't on here. He good. You can't. Oh, what? Is that something recorded? Hey, you got to mute that. You got to edit that, Moody, out of the video.
Hey, Friday Strat indicator not gonna pop up on TradingView tomorrow.
No more.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, what I'm saying is like there's all aspects matter of it, and making sure that you are coming back to a previous range. When is this occurring? So I think that answers your question. Because like I said, I have people that do nothing but continuity, but they will also enter into when is this occurring? Where am I in my broadening formation series? Right, all that kind of stuff. If that makes sense.
No, it totally does. I think I failed to look at the smaller, so like the 60, and then, clearly you will see it, see the next direction or potential direction from the smaller. So I think I do fail with looking at that and then kind of seeing how the monthly and weekly would be impacted. So thank you so much, Rob.
You're welcome.
Hey, Rob, I want to just read this one question from Sean. Sean says, good afternoon, everyone, and Rob. Are there any rules that you set for yourself as a beginner that you follow to this day? We always learn how important it is to stick to our plan.
Yes. If you're losing, stop trading, period. I can't stress that enough. Another good thing that I was teaching today is because the strat's so repetitive, you want to train your mind to see things over and over again. You don't have to trade it, but what you want to watch is something volatile on a 1 minute and a 3 minute and a 5 minute. And then verbally say what you're seeing. Is like, okay, if this RevStrat 1 kicks in, it's going to kick that 2, 1, 2, 3 minute, all that. And so when you verbally say it, it also helps train your mind. That way, when you go to the longer time frames, it seems like molasses. You're like, man, this is taking forever, but I know what I'm looking for. So, take your time. Like I said, the good thing is that you can accelerate your learning by doing that, because all we're doing is training our mind to see things. Train your mind to see things, because over time, you can't help but jump in on something that I'm like, I've seen this one 1,000,000 times. I've seen this one 1,000,000 times. It's going to work. Oh, yeah. Watch this. Where's it going? My risk, people throw out the term risk reward a lot, but usually they don't know what they're saying. They don't know. They'll say, I'm risking $1 to make 4. And I'm like, yeah, well, you got a lot better chance this is going $1 before it goes 4, just so you know, pal. But with our magnitude, understanding magnitude, be like, look, if I'm right, it's going up there. If I'm wrong, I'm out. And that's it.
I never was able to understand that, like the risk or reward, and people like, hey, I'm risking what you just said, 1 to make 4. Because in my head, it's more so like, it's not even a strat. Just go to the weekly chart. You will see the weekly 5-day change, and you're trying to bet why are you trying to bet to make $4 and let's say this stock only moves $3 a week?
Right, because I'm
Then
like,
you gotta keep-
if you had a pie chart of probability, it'd be like, I'm risking 1 to make 4. It's like playing the lotto. I'm like, yeah, you got a 95% chance of losing $1 before you make 4, and you're going to take that trade, right? If you had a pie chart of how bad that probability is, right?
Yeah.
So as nice as it sounds, it's garbage. It's garbage.
So I got a few questions myself that I think it'll help me and also other people. Let me just go through it real quick. I would say real quick, because I know a lot of us sometimes struggle with Browning formations. At the bottom or the top of the Browning formation, is there anything from your experience that you can identify with the candlesticks if it may break or fully be exhausted to reverse?
Yeah, when it occurs, and do you have reversals, and would the shorter term reversals trigger longer term reversals? That's what we want to know. That's what we want to know. That's why we're using the time frames up there and be like, so I might be at the top of a Browning formation, but I'm bright green on the month, bright green on the week. I'm like, not turning this thing, not today. No, not today. And so,
So is that like trading in force?
Yeah, if the other things are still in force, it might just be stalled out, but if I have more major reversals, then we'll go after it. As well as another problem that people worry about is trying to be the first one in. I'm like, oh man, I want to get this thing as soon as it breaks. I'm like, you don't have to do that. If something's really going to tank, it's going to tank, and you're going to have a lot of signals all the way back through that thing. So you don't have to pick the bottom and the top of the broadening formation. You just got to know that you're coming back to the previous range, like I was explaining, where they're going to start removing liquidity and really puking, right? Or really blasting off. So you don't have to be the first one in there. The good thing about the strat is it's going to give you multiple entries. If something's really going to move, more often than not, it's not going to give you a single signal. It's going to be a ton of them, right? If this thing's really moving out, where when people say I can't chase it here, I'm like, the hell you can. Like this thing's still good, man. I'm like,
the funny thing is that Jordan stresses that a lot. Whereas like he talks about waiting for a candle to close. He always tells people like, don't okay, it's just testing the line right now. It's testing your price. Just wait for your next candle to close. So it's amazing to hear you say that, and to hear you say that a lot of things that we preach. It just shows me that we're on the right path. Let me see if I could get another one. Oh, I did have a question from a member. I forget how to pronounce his name. James, something like that. But his question was if you could speak or touch a little bit on what do you mean when you talking about sideways 30, trading sideways 30?
Okay, a sideways 30 means that software is going to present data the way it wants, right? And so all 30-minute charts update at the top and the bottom of the hour, right? However, since we want to analyze data, we're not reading a chart, I'm analyzing data. So if I have something, 2 15-minute bars from 15 minutes after the hour and 30 to 45 that are inside that previous bar, that would be a 30-minute bar, inside 30-minute bar, if my 30-minute updated at 15 and 45 instead of top and bottom of the hour. So it's the same thing. It's just that it's not being presented by the software. So most people don't even realize that some software updates the 60 at the top of the hour and others at the bottom of the hour, and those charts look completely different. And that's why when you use the strat, you want to analyze the data as opposed to reading the chart, saying, what is this? Because you can go on crazy time frames and be like, it still works, because all we're doing is identifying participants by price and time. So the sideways 30 just means it's an inside bar in a 30-minute chart that you're not seeing, but mentally we can see that. So that's still an actionable signal. That's still good, and it actually doubles your signals because you don't have to wait for the actual 30. Like that's still a real 30.
That comes from you teaching compounding candlesticks and knowing your time frames. Once you're able to, because I don't know how I do it, but I can be on an hour time frame and I see the 5 minute, I see the 3 minute, but I don't see all the candlesticks, but I see what's going on. I can tell. I don't know. It's just like how you have 1,000 charts pulled up there. I didn't care what I had to do. I didn't care about my priorities. When I learned about candlesticks, that's what it's doing. That's what it's doing. You know, so when I learned about the strat, I just understood that this is the way to trade. There's only three things that these candlesticks can do. I learned all types of strategies and patterns and things of that nature. And like, I do want to touch a little bit about patterns and, you know, not to discredit any other trader or things of that nature, but what I do understand with trading the strat is that indicators, I try to use it with the EMA, it disrespects the EMA. There's no reason to have an EMA if you're trading the strat, because it's just going to like psych you out, if anything. You know what I'm saying? And also what I've realized with patterns myself is like, look, I see one right here. You see a bull flag. My apologies for talking about patterns, but we see a bull flag right here and it breaks out, right? But what I understand is you can go with that and you can trade the top of the top of the pole in the flag and go ahead and take some targets out that's over here to your left. But what I understand is more effective to understand these reversals, these two, like how we went two up, doji. At least if you understand the candlesticks, now you understand we're in a tug of war right now. They're battling it out. This is just a battle. Since I'm in what I tell myself is if I'm on a 15-minute time frame, this is a battle. This is not a war. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going by 15 minutes increments. I have
right. So there was an interesting thing you just said there, because there's another analogy I use when I was going back to talking about time frame continuity and changing continuity. It's much like a tug of war when you have the ribbon starts in the middle, right? And you got the pool in the middle, and one team starts to take it, and then the ribbon crosses that middle again, and that first guy goes in the water. That's the change in continuity. like if the first guy goes in, it's over, right? And that's a rev strat. That is change in continuity. And so that's kind of the analogy I use for what we're talking about, what happened today.
Am I crazy? Or let's say when I'm looking at a weekly chart and I'm going with time frame continuity, say like on a Monday, right? Monday opens up, say we're inside and half the trading day went by, we go down, we go 2 down, and obviously it's Monday, so I call it the bird's eye view. If you're looking at the weekly, it's like uncoupling. You know, you teach that all the time. I call it the bird's eye view. All the charts are the same until a couple of days fall through, right? So, dang, I just lost my train of thought. It's because I'm thinking of so many things at the same time. But basically, dang, I forgot what I was trying to say. Oh, so when the week goes down, 2 down, I normally tell myself, we have turnaround Tuesdays, Moody, so we can't get smacked right back up. So look for some reversals on smaller time frames. I normally be on the 1 minute, but I understand that the 15 and the 30 is for me like the best time frame to look for reversals. Or if you create your own like a 17-minute, just to give you time to make sure that it's time frame continuity. I like to call it the domino effect. You know what I'm saying? That it's all in force basically. So what I'm trying to basically ask is when we go 2 down on a week, I know that we can have a turnaround Tuesday and go back up, but is that normally the direction that we are picking for that week?
Well, it's the opening rounds, so I want to see if I have a simultaneous break. How many things are 2ing down? Is it just this stock or is it everybody? How much more evidence do we have? Because when we have continuity doing downside, we call it like the porch collapse. It's like when this porch collapses, it's going to collapse on that porch. When this one collapses, it's going to collapse on them. And that's why we're looking at all the different time frames. So on any given Monday, it depends on what Monday it is, because you have your first week of the month, and just like Tuesday is going to reconfirm or negate Monday, the second week of the month is going to confirm or negate what we knew about the first week. Yeah. So it's always when things occur. It's always a series like that of when is this happening, and you can use that on the quarterly. Like right now, got a good chance the S&P goes inside on the quarter, and so coming into the fourth quarter, we could have an inside quarter. Yeah, that gets my attention. But it doesn't mean we can't trade until the quarter closes up. But you know, we want to know everything as much as we can. How much, what do we know here? And, you know, like, you know, everybody's pretty gung ho this morning. I'm like, let's crush these things, Rev Strat monthers. I'm like, take it easy. Like, take it easy. It's the first day of the month. I'm like, I'm with you. We want this to happen. But you know, just let it play out. We got the Fed coming. I'm like, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, if they're really going to puke, I'm like, they'll start puking and we'll just hop on board. You know, another thing that for people too, is they always need to think, a lot of people think just directional and saying, you know, when we have a simultaneous break, you know, you can go after it, but you'll hear me say oftentimes, like, I don't know how low we're going, but we are not going up. And so I live in an options world here in this office. And when I first got here, they're like, well, strat. And I'm like, Rob, don't tell us where it's going. Tell us where it's not going. And I'm like, it ain't going up. I'm like, that's all I needed to know. And then, you know, sell them upsiders, put on that bear call spread. And they're like, that's all I need to know. And, you know, the good thing is now we have, you know, Qs and SPY Monday, Wednesday, and Friday options, you know? And so when there's days like that, you know, I'll have a lot of my traders be like, don't know where it's going. It's like, I don't know how low it's going, but it ain't going up. That's all I needed to know. Boom, sold to you. And I'm like, I don't know where it's going, how high it's going, but it's not going down. And that's when you have, let's see, in the S&P, 80, 90% twos to the upside. This thing ain't going down anytime soon. Not today, maybe tomorrow, but not today. Right?
Magnitude and the range will always let you know, and that 50% will let you know, hey, no, we're still shooting back up. But I do want to give the floor to Fry Daddy. Before I do so, I just want to say that you schooled me, bro. And I appreciate you doing that, especially as the class is being recorded, because I asked you a personal question for me, trying to get an answer. And I also knew the answer, but thought I would get some type of different answer from you. And the answer that you gave me back is, hey, Moody, you know the strat. Basically, everything is literally at the moment in time. So I can't say, even if we understand the strat and understand the broad information, we can say that the price is going up higher, but we can't say that, hey, it's not going to reverse and come back down, because you have to be watching the market. You have to be watching what's going on at that time. But thank you for saying that. But Fry Daddy, you got any questions? I want to give you the floor, man. I know you really love the strat and you really love Rob. You always have great things to say about him. And man, I just want to give you that floor, brother. We can't hear you.
Oh, okay, I'm coming in. Let's see, bro. Appreciate you, Rob. Appreciate your story of how it became the strat, how it come to you. Appreciate your boldness. You answered some of the questions I had already, like time frames, and so I know that some people try to do the. Do you like ever trade like on the 5 minute, 1 minute with the strat, or not really?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you know, once you have a discernible direction, you might have that short-term fiver, and you know, use the short-term usually during periods of high volatility and low volatility. And what I mean about that is when things are really grinding, if you start taking 30s and 60s into the highs, you're going to get stopped out every time, because it's just slowly grinding up. So what you need to do there is look for those, you know, when you see like a channel, I hate to use that term, but when it's just slowly grinding up, you got to come off the lows of that. You can't keep going into the highs, you're going to get stopped out. So, and then when things are really volatile, you can go to the down lower time frames as well, because at that point, a 5 minute bar might be the same size as a normal 60 minute or a day, right? And so not everybody's going to be able to trade that, and that's fine. Like I said, it customizes itself to you. But when you are using everything in concert and saying, I know I want to be in on this, how am I going to get in? And sometimes 5 minute might be the only way you're going to get in. Like the 15's not setting up, these aren't setting up. But, you know, as I was saying, it's like, if this works, what does that do? It reconfirms what we know. Where's the magnitude? Down there, right? And it might only be, you know, 20, 30 cents, but then you can defend it and say, okay, now I'm going to stop myself even or take some profits and then just defend myself and say, okay, I'm in a winning position, because the strat is based on creating winning positions, period. And so a lot of people that I'll teach, I'll say, look, when you're trading the gaps or whatever you're doing in the morning, if you can create a winning position and you have every reason to believe it's going to work, create that winning position and go do something else, and then come back at the end of the day and let it play out. Be like, either you got stopped out or you didn't. But a lot of times the mind games of during the day of watching the screen all day are going to take you out and say, look, I'm bored. It's not doing anything. I'm going to sell it. I'm like, it's still good. I'm like, it's still good. Go do something. Come back at the end of the day, last hour, be like, okay, I have not been stopped out. I can move my stops up. I can decide to stay in, because every trader's always has said this. I got out too early. Every trader that I've ever known has said that. And a lot of that comes from boredom of things that are actually working, and, focusing too closely on things, saying, okay, well, I'm going to stop it off the 5 minute. And I'm like, yeah, well, everything else is still working. The 5 minutes is going to be the chop shot, but you can go and say, my 60-minute bar is still good. My 60-minute bar is still good. My 60-minute bar is still good. And then, some people say, I don't want to swing, I just want to day trade. And I'm like, well, you took this thing for $10, we still got some magnitude up there. You might want to hold it overnight, like it's not bad. So hopefully that answers it,
Yeah. Other question is, and you may have said this, I may have missed it. When you're adding to winning trade, what candles, what numbers do you look for when you're adding, when you add to winning trade?
It depends on how much probability we have. Do we have a simultaneous break? Is it Tesla? What is it? What's going on here? And what's going on in the market? How much evidence do I have? So, we want to make sure that you have enough acreage that even if you get stopped out on your ad, you're still at a profit, right? And if it wins, let it go, right? So, you can use all the multiple time frames. It's a matter of, do you still have magnitude? What is that? And, the probability of the simultaneous break and all that kind of stuff enters into it. Is it in the S&P? Is it in the Qs? Is it ETF? What's going on? So, I don't like to be subjective at all, but what I will say is that there are much higher probability stuff than just like an individual stock, where most traders will come in and be like, this is my single best idea. And I'm like, you've got one idea? Like, what if it doesn't work? And I'm like, all right. I'm like, look, that can constantly change. And that's why you'll hear me say mind the flip. What's the new 60? What is that looking like? Right? What's it closer to 2? And if it does, what's that going to do? So hopefully that helps. But we're going on some time here. I'm still in the office. We can do this again. But I want to go home and have some dinner. But thanks for having me. But and I want to cut out here and I go home. I'm still in the office. I'm moving my office home. So once I'm at home and have the office back there, then we'll stay on all night. But for now, if we can cut it here, and thanks for having me, and we'll do it again.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you, Rob. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. I know you got things to do. I really appreciate you. And thank you for the offer as well, wanting to do this again. I'll reach out to you and see what we can do and just develop on, possibly just going off over some scenarios on the chart. But I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. I know you don't have to do this. So thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
All right, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Rob.
Everybody have a
Thank
good night.
you.
Nice meeting y'all, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Man,
Moody.
Jordan, I
Moody.
appreciate you. Oh, my bad.
You got to give me warning, bro. If you said that, I couldn't even talk. I was like, okay,
You
how do I
start
shut my
recording.
internet off? I'm like, oh my God. I couldn't even think, but I was like, I didn't know what to think. I can't speak. I don't know what to say.
Are you still
I don't want
recording?
to look stupid. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm still recording.
No, dude.
You did good.
Okay, I'm gonna quit.
Same. I was sweating Friday, and I was in a car with air, so I get it.
Yeah. Jordan, you think we should stop the recording or just let it keep rolling for right now?
If you're gonna edit it out now, I mean,
maybe stop
Oh.
and start again.
Yeah, you can start a new one. One of the
Yeah,
things
I'll
that
start a
came
new
up
one.
a couple times was